Okay. Hello, everyone. Let's get started. Welcome to Career Services' first Black Entrepreneur Panel discussion. My name is Adrienne Mitchell, and I'm the Director of Career Services at Marymount University. I'm thrilled to be here this evening and as your host, and I'm looking forward to welcoming this outstanding group of Black entrepreneurs who have started business in both for-profit and nonprofit industries. 3 who are proud Marymount alumni located here in the DMV area, and 1 who is tuning in from New York City. For today's format, we are going to have a conversation with us asking our panelists about their stories and tips on building and maintaining their business. We also want to hear from you in the audience. So about halfway through our conversation, we ask that you submit your questions through the Q&A chat or use the raise your hand feature on the Zoom toolbar and we will unmute you. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome our panelists. First, I'll start with Nana Kanadu Asare. Nana, how are you today?
I'm well. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
Thank you, Nana. Nana is the founder and president of Nana's Project. She was born in Ghana and at a very young age came to America. Nana obtained her bachelor's degree in health promotion from Marymount University and a biology degree from George Mason University. She started Nana's Project in 2016 to help remove financial standing and geographical location as a barrier to adequate health care for many underserved communities. She and her team has done this by providing medical supplies and infrastructure support to hospitals and clinics in Ghana. Nana's Project has supported 13 hospitals and sent 6 shipments to Ghana, with the last 2 being 40-feet containers full of supplies. Her goal is to expand throughout Africa by providing medical supplies, education, and rebuilding medical facilities to support the sustainability and accessibility for many of these communities. Thank you, Nana, for joining us. Next, we have Zenaida Mann. Hi, Zenaida.
Hello, everyone.
Zenaida is the founder and managing director of Black Women's Business Collective, a crowdsourcing initiative that was created out of a growing need to provide access and resources to Black and Afro-Latino women business owners who experience financial challenges in the wake of COVID-19. The vision is to create an entrepreneurial ecosystem where Black and Afro-Latino women can fairly compete in the marketplace, having the knowledge, resources, networks, and capital needed to increasingly improve their revenues and business structures to support job creation and achieve generational wealth. Thank you, Zenaida, for joining us today. Next, we have Marion Vanzi. Hi, Marion, how are you doing today?
Hello, Adrienne, how are you?
Good, good. Marion, Lieutenant Commander Marion Vanzi is a 29-year decorated retired United States Naval officer, healthcare information technology executive, and owner of CEO of Agile Care Enterprises. Marion earned his bachelor's degree from Southern Illinois University and master's degree in healthcare administration from Marymount University. As the lead cybersecurity officer and market enterprise information systems security manager, Marion and his team used an agile approach to address the complex cybersecurity issues inherent in integrating multiple organizations, cultures, and processes. His leadership led to a streamlined, cost-effective security solution for all MHS systems and enclaves. Marion believes that people are the foundation of an organization, and caring for the internal customer first assures a practice that leads to lasting success for the organization and its stakeholders. Thank you, Marion, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and last but not least, we have Dr. Linnell Plummer. Hi, Dr. Linnell Plummer.
Hey!
Good to have you here. As the CEO of Onyx Therapy Group, Dr. Plummer has created and leads a company whose mission is centered on addressing mental health issues, disparities, and inequalities in communities, organizations, and individuals in need. She leads her team of counselors, consultants, and specialists with a focus on development, compassion, and understanding while requiring their attainment towards high standards of excellence. that is incorporated in research, education, training, personal knowledge, and intuition. She strives towards creating a familiar experience amongst her team that can be modeled and creates a parallel process with all clients and consumers of Onyx Therapy Group. Through the value of integrity and awareness, Dr. Plummer believes that emotional, spiritual, and cultural healing is attainable for all. And last but not least, Dr. Plummer is also a Marymount alumni and received her doctorate's degree in education as well. Thank you, Dr. Plummer.
You forgot to mention my undergrad.
Oh, and your undergrad.
I'm from Howard University. We got to talk.
Yes. Great, great. So just to get started, I wanted to ask each of you, and we can go down the line, and I'll start with Nana first. What was your aha moment that inspired you to start your business?
Yeah, so for Nana's project, I actually had a death in my family. So my uncle had passed away, and at the time I was working in the emergency room, and there were several patients that came in for similar situations that, left and they were fine. When he went to the hospital, they looked at him, they said, "You look good, go home." And unfortunately, a few days later, my family members found him and he was passed away. So that really had me question what was going on for that to happen. So from there, I just started doing a lot of research, and I realized the healthcare system that I have access to is definitely not the healthcare system a lot of other people are experiencing. And then I just started asking myself, well, what can I do, right? And at the time, I wanted to wait until I finished. I had a plan. I was going to go to undergrad, go to med school, be a doctor, and save the world. And, life just has a funny way of kind of shifting you into your actual purpose. I just started asking questions, and one question led to another question, which led me to the right person, and I was able to begin on this project.
That's great to see here, and I'm happy that you're able to start this project. Zenaida, how about you?
So I wish it was that clean and that clear cut, but for me, I would have to say my aha moment started when I was 8. I've been an entrepreneur since I was a little girl, and the aha moment was when I became one of the top selling candy sale people in New York City or whatever. That was a big thing back then in the 90s. And then I realized I wasn't getting any of the profit. So at that point I was like, wait, so I sold all of this candy and all I got was a little toy. You remember, I don't know if they did that in DC, but like you get the little book, you get a toy. Thousands of dollars sold because my grandfather helped me. He was in the military, so that helped a lot. But the crazy part was I then questioned if I should be doing this type of sales. I mean, at 9, this salesmanship without getting any real return. So what I started to do was buy candy from the corner store and sell it at my school, and I made profit. And that was like my aha moment then. So I have been on this path for the longest to make sure that anything that it is that I'm doing, that I am getting something in return, whether that be mentorship or, profit. But that aha moment was, if you're good at something, you don't do it for free.
Love it. Love it.
That's all I got.
Great. And Dr. Plummer, what about you?
Absolutely. So for me, I guess it was a number of reasons. I absolutely love therapy. I believe in counseling. I believe in healing. I also recognize that our data shows us that many Black people prefer a Black therapist, right? So I was like, if I really want more people to have access to Black therapy, how can I create that access, right? So it was about creating access for the community. And subsequently, I was realizing that there were a lot of therapists and consultants that needed a place, a home, some place to feel safe, right? Because sometimes our work environments are not safe for Black women, right? Like they label us all these different titles, and it's always negative and things like that. And so I wanted a place that was safe for Black women to grow and to have a familial experience to kind of combat some of the stereotypes. So for me, the aha moment became when we were doing work around the city, and we kept this sounds a little crazy, but we kept making so much money that it was impacting our personal taxes. And so at that point, it just made sense to go ahead and start the business because I was already on track for what I wanted to do. So it was really a matter of protecting my revenue and capital from places who didn't really value all of that, right? So then I started the business and we've been growing ever since then.
That's great to hear. That is great to hear. And Marion, how about you? What was your aha moment that inspired your business?
So my godfather is a USC business school graduate. And so I kind of came up with him in that environment, right? Helping him in the summer. I really have to say I loved IT, getting into IT, but starting a business, I'm going to have to contribute that to my wife. My wife is a Howard graduate, marketing student, she has a marketing degree from there in communications, and that's her background. She wrote curriculum for entrepreneurship and really kind of put me in an environment where I felt like that was something I could do. I could have easily taken a job as a CISO somewhere and made really comfortable, good money with my retirement and everything. But she inspired me in that sense from what she was teaching and what I saw around her that, this is doable and it can build a legacy from it, right? Get my kids, put something in place that my children can use to build off their own careers, right? I can fund their projects for things that they want to do. And the only way for you to build that kind of wealth is to have a business that I can control my income. That was the big piece for me, right? I can make as little as I want or as much as I want. It's up to me it put me in that driver's seat that I've never had before, right? 29 years in the military, I just knew I was going to get that check that came with the rank that I had. And that said something to me. And I wanted to make sure that I was able to control my income for my family and for my wife and I as we get into our adult age. Not that I'm that old yet, so.
Well, Marion, that kind of leads me to my next question, especially for you, Marion, who's transitioned from the Navy and now starting your own business. But for each of you, how were you able to turn that idea or inspiration into a business plan or a concept for your business?
It takes time. Like I started thinking about this like 5 years ago. I had a company name already. I dabbled a little bit. I did some call center stuff where it was, I could do on my off time. Just really messed around with it for a while and then built out a plan, right? And it doesn't necessarily have to be a business plan per se, but just an idea of where you want to be over a period of time. And it changed, right? So it's a very fluid document in your head, right? So it changes as you move along. I mean, my plan changed to where I am currently, where I said, okay, I'm in a contract business with the government. I really can't be a prime on any contract for at least another year or two, right? Just because of my background and my government, I had to give that grace period. So I came up with a plan that says, okay, I'm going to consult for 18 months. During that 18 months, I'm going to put myself as a sub on other contracts. That builds past performance. By the time I hit that 18 months, I can drop off some of that consulting work and pick up my main income will come from my prime work. And at the same time, I'm building relationships.
Great. What about you, Dr. Plummer? What's inspiration, or how were you able to turn that idea or inspiration into a business plan or concept?
Yeah, I think for me, it started with relationships, right? So who did I know? How did they know me? Had they already seen, like Marion just said a second ago, about that past performance, right? So what did they already know about me and my work ethic? And could they be able to carry that message on for me also, right? Because there's only so much you can do with standard marketing practices. A lot of the work, especially in therapy, is around relationships and and reputation. My company is a little different than most group practices though, right? So what makes us different is that we are a mental health company. So we do clinical work, but we also do education and training, and we also do talent sourcing. So for me, it was a matter of thinking about having a strong vision, being very grounded with what that vision was, and then finding the actual structure to be able to accomplish that. And so I've been in business for about 8 years now, and it didn't start off this same way, right? It was a slow build up, and every year looking at what my goals were for the year, thinking about what my goals were for the quarter and things like that. So for me, it was the structure and the mentorship, it was purpose and access that really helped me turn my passion and my inspiration into a profitable business, right? Because we want our businesses to have profit. It's not just about the passion and the excitement. You know, you want to be able to make capital, and like Marianne said, you want to be able to create legacy and eventually wealth for your family and your community.
That's great. Great. And Zenaida?
So I'm what's known as a serial entrepreneur. So this is my fourth business. This one came up out of just, again, the response of COVID-19, but it isn't something, the work that I do is not new. It repackaged itself. So essentially in my first business, I fell into it. You know, I got an opportunity to do some consulting, and just as it was previously stated, you know, at some point you have to refine and really, you know, disassociate your personal taxes from a business tax. So I went and started an LLC, and then I just did a ton of research, and that would be my answer. You know, I had some mentors, but a lot of them were telling me not at that time. I think it was around 2007. I know the market nothing was good, and people were just like, don't start a biz, like don't do it. And I couldn't rely on my network at that time for it, because they were like, girl, you better keep your 9 to 5. What's wrong with you? But I did, you know, Google University, and I just took everything that I knew. I have a degree in accounting. You know, I got that part was fine, but the marketing aspect, I really just bootstrapped a lot of it. And I did have a lot of mistakes, one being, you know, and I'll answer this with a later question, but just not knowing my target market, and I was selling to everyone, which you know, us business people know that doesn't work. And I, you know, trial and error, a lot of trial and error, but I wasn't afraid, and I just kept on doing it. And then eventually, you know, by the time I got to my second business, I knew to do a blueprint and a business plan, and seek out, you know, through SCORE or talk to my mentors and say, you know, what's some resources that you have that you know of. And I just do a lot of research to this day.
That's great. And if all else fails, always use Google, right?
Oh, yeah. And now YouTube University. So
yes, YouTube University. And then what about you, Nana?
Yeah, I was going to mention the YouTube University, so I'm glad you brought it up. So mine is a little different, right? So I have a nonprofit. So initially, when I first started, I had $15, you know, an hour job. I was still in school, and I just had a dream, and I wanted to figure some type of solution to help others. So I didn't necessarily start with the idea that I'm going to have a business. I just wanted to solve a problem that I had identified with the resources that I had. So again, I'm probably going to repeat a lot of the things that everyone has said, but it definitely takes time. So I started off with a vision, a very general vision. And I realized that as time went on, I realized that that vision has definitely narrowed and become what it has become today. So when we first started, you know, a lot of the stuff was coming from me, and I had to do a lot of research in terms of how to start a nonprofit. Again, I didn't have the money to go to, you know, like a lawyer or LegalZoom. So I invested a lot of my time learning. I learned how to, you know, start a business. I learned how to create a website. I was a web developer. I was a photographer. I was a whole business in one. And it saved me so much money, because things that people were saying would be, you know, $5,000 or $3,000 or something, it ended up costing me, because of, you know, the time I had invested, maybe like $700. So that's how I had started on this project. The initial fee was literally $700 because I was able to save up for it, but I was also able to do a lot of the research during my off time between school and work. So that's how mine was, right? And then as time progressed and we started growing, that's when it really transitioned, because we initially were just sending care packages to people that needed the supplies. But then the thing with nonprofits, I feel as though as you're solving the grand problem that you initially thought was the issue, you start realizing there's a deeper issue, and there's a deeper issue to that. So that's how we became more refined, and that's how I had to transition from, I'm here to help you all, and it's coming out of my pocket, and I have no money ever, you know? No, I can't go to dinner because I would like to save the world. That's when I had to transition from actual nonprofit to some type of profit for my organization. So with that, I had to find a team, and I'm very, very protective of my organization. So it took 3 years to find a team that I felt I could trust. So that just meant no sleep for me, you know? And then also with being fluid, allowing the actual mission to be fluid, but not the vision, right? So I never lost the sight of the fact that I would like to, you know, provide and create medical accessibility, but how I'm going to do it has definitely changed. We started off with medical supplies and small care packages to larger donations and actually providing to hospitals. And then we realized we're giving these people the supplies, but the facility that they're in is also struggling. So now in 2020, we're providing infrastructure support and building our first hospital. So all of that took a lot of time, a lot of patience, a lot of mistakes, a lot of questions. And the thing that I've done personally is to put myself in either professional jobs or opportunities that would develop the skills that I lack. So I lacked a lot of, I wasn't a business person. I was going to be a doctor. I knew a lot about clinical, I knew a lot about the health field, but I had no idea about business. And for me to transition today, I put myself in professions that helped me develop those skills. So sometimes, you know, you can learn, you can have those mentors, and you can put yourself in places that can grow the skills that you lack. So all of that has helped me transition from, you know, no funds and coming directly out of my pockets to having funds and fundraising. And with the work you're doing, you're being credible. I know just, you know, the work ethic that you're having and the proof and the people that you're supporting. So as you're growing and your credibility is growing, then your resources and your funding is also growing. So that's something that has helped me substantially. Long answer, I know.
No, I appreciate that. And the one thing, and kind of each of you touched on this, but it sounds like there are so many responsibilities that you have as a business owner, which kind of makes me wonder, like, how do you continue to innovate while managing these responsibilities? Anyone can take this answer.
I can start.
Go ahead, Nana.
Oh, okay. In terms of being innovative, I had to learn to be I believe in discipline, because I've always been in school with this business, and I've always also had to hold a full-time job in order to fund the business. So I believe that you have to have discipline, and you also have to build in your fun. So I was still a college student, and I am still a college student. But you have to build in your fun, and you have to be intentional, right? So for me, that, like, my schedule will have, sometimes I have to start my day at 3 a.m. so that way I'm able to match the international time zones. But then that means I'm going to have a built-in nap into my schedule, so that way I'm also very functional. I also separate, because I did mention that, you know, I put myself in professions that allow me to fund my organization. So I had to separate. From 9 to 5, I am 100% available to my 9 to 5. And from 3 a.m. to 9 a.m., I'm 100% available to my international customers. And during the day, and then from 5 to whatever time, I am then doing you know, the nitty-gritty parts of Nana's project, but then I also try to build in some time for my family, and I try to do that on weekends. And the biggest thing I feel like as you're developing in your entrepreneurship, understanding that you have to be kind to yourself. You're always the hardest on yourself. So with different innovations, like it might work, it might not, and understanding and being kind to yourself, you're able to really tweak and adjust your lifestyle to what fits you. So I always think you can listen and learn from other people, but always remember, do what works for your actual lifestyle, or you will be trying to make crazy things happen and it just doesn't feel good. So, yeah.
I would add to that, one of the things that that I found, and it's it can be difficult because there's a book I read many years ago called The E-Myth, and this kind of talks about the technician and the owner, right? And if you can't separate the two, you're going to stagnate your business, because the technician and the owner at some point will not survive together. And you're going to have to create a process within your organization in order to peel away that technician, meaning you train other people, you put processes in place so that they can do the work, the operational work, and you continue to be the visionary and the business development. In the beginning of an organization, it's difficult to do that. I'm fortunate enough that I chose, and here's the thing, I chose and I put money away to, or at least when I had the money to put away, to outsource my accounting. I did not want to, I watched colleagues that got out the military, starting business, spend their entire time in front of QuickBooks. And you don't want to do that, because you need to spend that time that you're spending doing all that administrative stuff, doing BD work, meaning business development, relationships, whatever your craft is, going out there generating other customers so that your revenue can grow. So it's imperative that you learn to separate those two for you to actually grow. Now, a business can survive and someone will make money, but they'll always hit a peak because they haven't separated the business work from the technical work, if that makes any sense.
If I can add on, I agree 100%. Like I've mentioned, I've been in business for about 8 years, and interestingly enough, I am just now starting to come off of the ground for that very reason that that Marion mentioned. So I think for me, it's been about understanding who I am, my personality, my character traits, where my passion is. I am about to turn 40 next week, so I'm super excited about it. But when I was I'm still young, but when I was a younger person,
Hey.
I thought therapy was it. Like, counseling was what I wanted to do. I wanted to sit in front of people all the time. Tell me what's going on with you. Let us heal. Let us do all of this. And it was great. And then my leadership team said to me last year, all right, Doc, we need you to come off of the ground because we need you more, right? And for the amount of hours that you're doing on the ground work, for the amount of time you're doing the technical work or the technician work, as Marion mentioned, you're taking away that time from the business, right? And it's stalling us. And why that was important is, one, because I chose a team that I absolutely 100% believe and trusted, right? People who understood my vision, they understood my passion, they understood the mission, and they were there with me. I'm also a veteran of the United States Army. So early on, I learned how to stay in my lane, right? Like, you got this lane and this person is this lane and you stay in your lane, right? So for me, it was a matter of knowing who I was, knowing who I work really well with, because when you're the boss, you get to pick who you're working with too, right? So knowing who I really work well with, what kind of personalities I really work well with, trusting them and learning to stay in my team. Referring to books, there's a book called The Millionaire Mind. And in that book, the author says at some point in your career, you have to You have to be doing what you love to do, or you have to be resting. And if you're doing all the other stuff that you do not like to do, it is going to take away from your passion to do what you really enjoy doing. And of course, when you're a startup business in those beginning years, you maybe can't afford all that, right? You may not be able to afford the accountant or the web developer or whomever, but eventually you want to get your business to a place where you can source that out. Think about how much money you charge per hour, because what you charge per hour needs to also be able to pay for who your other people are, right? Like your hourly rate needs to be able to pay for your accountant and pay for your web person and things like that, which means that you might need to be adjusting your rate so that you can do that. And then the last thing about that is understanding that business it happens in a developmental way, right? A developmental, but it's money, living a life on somebody's yacht, on your yacht, doing whatever you want to do, right? Like, no, in the very beginning, you are going to be doing a lot of things, but you have to even keep your vision in mind of, by this time, I want to be able to do this. By this period in my life, I want to be able to do this. How can I scale up my business so that I focus on what brings enjoyment to me, and I can do that while also creating jobs, opportunity, employment for somebody else? Because when you hire your accountant, you're helping build their business too, right? And you're helping to keep the money and the wealth in their lives, in their families, in their communities as well. So being really strategic about understanding yourself, understanding others, and getting yourself to a place where you can just focus on the things that matter to you and let somebody else benefit by supporting you also.
If I could add to that, what I would say also is stay lean as possible for the longest. Do not spend money, unnecessary money. If your business allows you to work out of your home for 5 years, work out of your home, build the revenue so that you don't have to. I had people that think they need to get a fancy office, but they don't really seek people all the time, right? Your work is done out, or it's networking or phone calls. Stay at your home, right? If your business requires you to have an environment that's inviting, then you have to spend that money. But don't spend money, and the bottom line is don't spend money in unnecessary areas.
One thing that I've noticed here, and I want to, if there's any accountants in the audience, it sounds like there's a little niche here that there are some entrepreneurs looking for accountants.
Did you catch that?
I did catch that. There you go. So if there's any,
I already had an idea off of that simple conversation, right?
Exactly.
There you go.
And just before I go to my next question, I just want to remind the audience to please feel free to start sending in your questions. If you have any, it will come in through the Q&A chat, and I'll be happy to ask our panelists. So one of the things to ask is when you become an entrepreneur and a business owner, sometimes you realize that you may be in a business that is completely saturated, or there's a lot of other competition out there. So I wanted to know what key attributes helped you stand apart from your competition.
I'd have to say knowing your target market very well and knowing their pain points. So a lot of time the competitors are servicing, right, this target market that you may say, oh, there's, think about apparel. Everyone is servicing, people who buy apparel. So you have to think about actually just had a call about this today. I have a friend who has a business, it's called the Curvy Fashionista, and she knows that her market is the plus size market, but now it's a fad. So, it's like everyone's jumping into this market. I said, well, all their pain points. So you start giving them everything that they're complaining about, give it to them if you are in that capacity. So I would definitely say, and it's never the fun answer. Whenever I do any of these business panels, it's like, know your target market. It is boring finding your target market, in my opinion, right? Like, no one wants to sit there. I used to go to the New York Public Library and just sit up there and search my target market and really segment that market down. So I know I have this corner of the market that's already saturated and I can service them. So that would be my greatest advice with that, is spend some time with whoever your core is, because you know, essentially you can sell ice to an Eskimo, you use the right marketing and whatever it is, but you still need to know who you're selling to, and you can't sell to everyone.
Go
If
ahead,
I
please.
can,
Sorry.
okay. For the nonprofit world, I will say collaboration, right? So what I do, there's countless people that also do the same thing, but having your one, being okay with that, and then two, really collaborating and partnering, because at least in the nonprofit world, and I guess even for the for-profit world, the problem is so great that everyone can solve it, right? What I do, I'm trying to create medical accessibility for thousands, maybe millions one day of people. I can't do that by myself, no matter how hardworking and how amazing and how long I do this. But I can definitely collaborate and be okay with that, you know, understand if both of us are winning or three of us are winning, then we're really helping the cause and the solution. So definitely collaboration, definitely understanding your target population, but then also for nonprofit, your target funders. I started very on understanding my main target funders were the people that actually knew me in the beginning. Those people that knew me and knew how hard I worked and how passionate I was about this, they were able to really, one, help and be invested, but two, they also knew other people. Now they can vouch for the things that I do and the person that I am. So that's how my network grew in terms of my funders. The first year or two for Donna's project was completely off of the people that I personally knew. Now, as we're transitioning to more of a business, yeah, we have outside grants and things like that, but definitely understanding not only the target population that you want to serve, but then also the target funders, that helps substantially for that.
Thank you, Donna.
For my industry, it was and my path was my past history, right? My work that I did within the government was, so when you talked about me, and I'm just kind of repeating what people told me, what they saw, was the relationships I had with people, my follow through with the things that I did, the work that I produced within from the organizations that I came from, are the things that are carried over in the values in my business, right? When people talk about me now, they say, oh, well, if I go to Marymount, I know that's going to get done. And those are the things that carried over into my business. And I ride on that. You ride on those things that people know you for. And it may not be that for everyone else. But for me, that was the thing that I brought out of my government work that carries over to my business, to where people came to me where I didn't have to seek out business and said, hey, I want to do something with you. Hey, you know what? I got this deal. No big deal. I'm going to give you a couple bodies on a contract. Nothing asked about it. And I will cover all the resources just to get you up on your feet because of who I know you to be. And we'll work on some other things. The other thing I will tell people, and I'll go back to, and if I'm hopefully I'm correct, pronouncing this correctly, Nana is the name. She mentioned partnerships. You would think in the business that I'm in, we're all competitors, and we are. But in order to survive, you need those partners in order to go after certain things. I might be the cybersecurity expert, and this guy over here is the network expert, but the contract requires both. And so we have to come together at times to do that. I had a buddy that made a great analogy, Keith Scott, another brother that owns a company called Diverse Systems Group. He always makes a statement. He says, Marlon, we have to come together. Some days I'm going to eat steak, and other days you're going to have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And then there's going to be times you're going to have a steak, and there's times I'm going to have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
I tell my fiance that all the time.
Right. There's going to be times when we go in on a deal, you're not going to get all the things that you want there. But the next deal, we're going to work out together. But that's integrity of us working together, is creating a consortium that all of us, because there's enough money out there for all of us to be made. So.
Yeah. If I could answer the question also, Because of course in this area in DC we do have a lot of Black folks, especially a lot of Black therapists, right? So it's 100% knowing your niche, knowing what makes you different, what makes you different as a person, right? Like I know who I am, I know what energy I bring into conversations, I know what I like, and I created a business around that because when you are passionate about your work, it's much easier to keep getting the work, right? Because you can talk about it all the time. Work doesn't feel like work. It feels good. Now, there are moments where it feels like work. I don't want to pretend that it doesn't, but it feels good. So when you wake up in the morning, like Nana said, when you wake up in the morning at 3 o'clock because you have to make it an adjustment around something, it doesn't feel as painful because one, you're working for yourself, and two, you're doing something that you really enjoy doing. So know what makes you different. Know your story, right? Because people are going to ask you about your story, why you came into business, why you came into that particular business. Be really confident about your story and have it well versed, right? Even if you turn that into an elevator speech or a pitch, right? Like looking at efficiency in the way that you respond as well. And then recognizing that when you own a business, you are a salesperson. I teach a course at Johns Hopkins where I'm part of faculty, and the course is called Entrepreneurship, right? And I talk about the fact that I can sell Onyx Therapy Group to somebody in the grocery store based off of anything, right? We could be in the line. Our Onyx colors are green and black. And I'll be like, oh, that's a nice green cucumber you have. You know, green is important. You know, green is the company color, is my company color. You know, I own a business. And they will just be like, girl, what are you talking about? Next thing you know, they're one of our clients and they enjoying their life. You know what I'm saying? Off of a cucumber. So you have to know your passion. You have to recognize that you're a salesperson. Never be ashamed to talk about your business. Never. Talk about your business because it's part of you. It's part of your passion. It's what brings excitement to you. And if you organize and created a business that can help others, which all business, ideally most business can, you're going to find a way to bring that up into the conversation because you're trying to help as many people as you can.
Thank you so much. We actually have a question coming from a student, Dan. I don't mean to call you out, but his question, if you had to name one or two merits in one person to become a successful entrepreneur, what would it be and why?
I can start. Discipline, because there are days you're not going to want to, it's going to feel like it's work, right? Even though you love what you're doing, even though, you know, it's your business, it's your baby, there are days that you're not going to feel like you're not going to want to do it. You're going to want to procrastinate. You're going to be tired. Something else might take more precedence, but you have to be disciplined. In order to be successful, you have to be intentional, you have to be disciplined, you have to understand it sucks now, but it'll be great later. And I think with that, a lot of things are very easy to overcome because you're disciplined, you're intentional, and you want to move forward. So I believe discipline is something that's very important.
You know, I want to back up what you said because you have to. So this is it's a curse, and it's needed. You have to love what you're doing. But it goes back to what I said earlier about being the technician and walking away from what you like to do, right? So if you're a sculptor, but you want to own a sculpting business, at some point you're going to have to walk away from a business aspect of sculpting, right? Maybe you do it as your hobby, but in order for your business to be successful, you have to focus on the business. So, but you got to love what you're doing because when those late nights come in, and like I've slept 4 hours every night because I'm writing a proposal, right? Over the last 4 or 5 days, you know, it's not a big deal. I know that I'm enjoying what I'm doing because it's what I like, and I know what the outcome is in a successful proposal. The other thing is find a good mentor. Find someone, being able to take that advice from that person, right? Not somebody that's done it, but somebody that's succeeded at it and has hit a pinnacle of where you want to be. Find that person and get mentorship from them and be able to tap them when things are hard or you were in a fork in the road and you need that advice. Those are a couple things I would tell you.
That's a great one.
I would say integrity. Integrity is really big if you're going to have a sustainable business, and that also means like being able to connect to your own values, knowing your values. Again, I'm a therapist, so I'm going to keep talking about the fact that you have to know yourself, you have to know your personality, you have to know your strengths. You don't have to be perfect at all that because we all change, right? And there's areas we grow, but definitely have integrity, which connects to your work ethic, right? Create quality experiences for people because that's what makes people feel good and feel connected, and then they'll continue to promote and support your business. And the other piece, adding on to Nana around discipline, is that intentionality. Everything you do needs to have a purpose connected to it, which means that there's times when you need to sit back and think, what is your purpose? How does this connect to the mission? How does this connect to the vision? How does this connect, right? It has to be intentional. And like Marion, I think I'm mispronouncing your name, but just like he said a little bit ago, making sure that that you're like kind of using your resources properly. You're being mindful of everything. You're not wasting time. You're not wasting energy. You're not wasting money. And the way you do that is to sit back and be intentional. Sit back and create a plan around your structure and carry it out that way. And I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name.
It's Marianne.
Marianne, okay. Thank you.
So I'd have to say I have about 15 years of marketing experience, so most of my answers are going to be surrounded in that. I would say that you have to have strong communication and or customer service skills. And if you don't, then get you a founder or a friend or a partner that does. And that's what, we're talking about that now with my business, because on Twitter, they will make it seem as if, Black women own businesses, they don't know how to market or they don't have proper customer service skills. Like it'll be a running joke. And I'm sitting back thinking, well, there's a reason people are saying this. What's happening? And customer service is really important with any business. And then the other one I'd have to say is to really get rid of fear. And I know that's easier said than done. I put myself in a lot of spaces that I wasn't ready for. When I was 18, 19 years old, I was networking hard. I was at MWBE events that they had in New York City and Florida. I'm just, whatever. I was just like, I need to be in a room. I'm going to learn from people. I'm going to see their mistakes and I'm going to build up these connections. And that's what I did. And that was a part of my marketing plan. But what I would say is get rid of fear and you got to communicate, find a way. Now that most of us are virtual, you have to use LinkedIn, but you got to do it right. You got to, utilize Facebook and Twitter or whatever your deal is on social media, but you have to find a safe and appropriate way to communicate with people.
Yep.
All very great answers. And Dan, thank you for submitting that. And I do want to add again, feel free to submit your question and we will ask it live. I actually have another student that just submitted a question. Do you ever have doubts when starting your business? If yes, what helped you get through that doubt?
Yeah, doubt is gonna come. That's if you don't have doubt, fear, concern, then you don't need to get into business because it allows you to be cautious in your approach. From the people that you partner yourself with, which is very important, to the decisions you make and the things that you purchase, the resources you utilize, how you spend your time. You need to have that because it'll make you more a better business person that is going to be diligent in what they do, right? I had those fears, right? I had those fears when people would tell me, man, how you gonna pay your bills? How you gonna How you gonna how you gonna maintain your quality of life? You got 4 kids, you know, you sure you don't want to take a job? You know, you're a government guy, you're supposed to be a GS guy, you just jump back into a GS job. And I said, no. I said, I don't want to look back and say that I didn't try, right? And I'm not worried if I'm going to be successful or not. I know I'm going to be successful at it, right? Because I've surrounded myself with people that were successful in it themselves, right? And the thing I would add to that is not necessarily answering the question, but I was thinking about it, is surround yourself with smart people that work for you. Don't be one of my mentors told me, don't ever be the smartest person in the room. If you're the smartest person in the room, you failed your company. So, you know, because a leader and a smart person in the Texas is 2 different things. So that's what I would add to it.
One of my mentors is Iyanla Van Zandt, right? It makes sense, right? Can't you see it? Like we're all like up in everybody's face, right? So, but one of the things that she said, and I think she actually said it public, but she said it in a conversation with me too, was your dreams should be so big that it makes you want to tinkle on yourself just a little bit, right? Like it's just so big. You're just like, what am I supposed to do with this? How is this supposed to work? What is my next step? And with that, there's supposed to be a little bit of fear, right? Because what it is that what we know again is that people become uncomfortable when you have discomfort. That's when you create change, right? Nobody changes when there's 100% comfortable. So when we become complacent as business owners, we know that we need to do something different, right? We need to have a little bit of innovation, or we need to partner with somebody. We need to set another standard or another goal for ourselves. But the fear is supposed to be there. The difference is the fear is not supposed to be paralyzing, right? It's supposed to be a catalyst. It's supposed to be a motivator. If the fear is paralyzing, then there's some things that you need to work through, right? Maybe you need to get a business coach. Maybe you need to talk to your business mentor or advisor. Maybe you also need to consider some therapy, right? Because it's our own mind sometimes that block us. You like how I threw that in there, right? Because I'm always talking about business, you know what I'm saying? But anyhow, the fear is not supposed to be paralyzing. If you recognize that it's paralyzing in that you have a goal, you have the fear, and you don't move forward, then you need to figure a way to move past that with support. Don't try to always do it by yourself. You're going to have some people that support you. And like I mentioned, therapy is always the way to go.
Absolutely.
I love that. For me, there's 2 things that has definitely helped me when I first started. So I definitely just, not as project, it's definitely still a baby. But I remember when I first registered everything, and I was going to make my little announcement on Instagram and all the other social media, and I was just so scared. And I just sat there and I typed up my little message to make the announcement, but I was afraid. And looking back now, I realized that was completely fine, because just like what was mentioned, that's what's supposed to be there, but it shouldn't paralyze you. Now, how do you get out of it? So for me, I definitely have a strong faith in God, right? So I pray a lot and I seek a lot of guidance through God. I have a lot of mentorship with and I have a very strong community with my other fellow Christians. So that definitely helped. And also surrounding yourself with intelligent people and intelligent mentors, but just also surrounding yourself with people that love you, that want you to succeed and know you can succeed, and just put you on that pedestal. Because sometimes you might not be the smartest person in the room, and the people will let you know that, right? Sometimes you just need you just need a good support group that they know, like, we see you. I have one of my very, very best friends I met at Marymount, and we sit back and we laugh about this all the time. I wrote like my name on a piece of paper, and I said, I'm gonna be famous one day. I'm not gonna be a celebrity, but I'm gonna be famous one day. And we talked the other day, and she said, do you remember that? And my friends they're so supportive. So definitely have supporting friends. They don't have to be as smart as you. They don't have to understand what you're doing, but that support sometimes goes so far just in your own support. Like you just need that, you need that group to uplift you. So God, a great mentoring group, intelligent people, but just also people that love you and want to see you succeed. And also one more thing, as you get better every year, you just got to tell yourself and remind yourself who you are. You know?
Absolutely.
You just got to tell yourself, I am that person. You know what? Last year, I didn't do this, but I did X, Y, Z, and I'm going to do this better. You know, you just got to pump your own self up sometimes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I want to shout out Alexis Farrell. That was our student who asked that question. So thank you, Alexis. Let's see here. Oh, it says, hey, Dad and Nana, so proud of you both. What are some of the mistakes you wish you have avoided?
I guess that's for me. Things that I wish I had avoided. She knows she's wrong for asking this question because she knows why she's asking that. So I partnered with someone. And he came to me, the person came to me, and like I told you, I'd already planned my business out. And they came to me about a couple of years ago and said, hey, you know, you want to be my partner, and you know, let's come together. And in theory, it sounded really great, right? But I wasn't necessarily seeking one. But in theory, it's great in this business because you can attack from different fronts. We bring different skills to it, at least in my mindset. And that didn't quite work out. I did a lot of the work. I brought in a lot of the business, and somebody would reap the benefits of that. And we end up having to split. I mean, it's cordial. The one thing I could say to pivot off of that is you never burn bridges, even when you split with a partner, because it's a small industry and you never know when business and money on the table. All right. What we do in entrepreneurship is about money. Don't let anybody fool you. You want to help people, but we make money. That's what we do. We make money for different things, to be philanthropists, to be, you know, to help your family and the quality of life. But we're in the business of making money, and when you burn bridges, you can affect your money. That's what I would add.
And that was Brooke, and Brooke said that question is for anyone who wants to answer.
For me, I had the same experience, but since you kind of touched on that, I will give you another learning tool. So the biggest mistake I did was I compared myself to others. Again, I didn't have that background. I just knew one part of what I wanted to do. And I would meet other people doing something similar, or just how they carry themselves, or just everything. And I would just find myself like, ooh, I don't know if I can, you know, and it definitely started to create doubts that didn't need to be there. So I had to learn and be very intentional about transitioning my focus, because at one point, because I was comparing myself and looking at what other people were doing, I found myself losing my vision and trying to do what everybody else was doing. I talk a lot with my hands, by the way. But just comparing myself and trying to do what everybody else was doing, it didn't work out. And that's why in the beginning I said, do what works best for you, and understand your lane is your lane, and what is yours is what's yours. No matter how many replications there are, no matter how many people are doing it, do what's best for you, and and if it's yours, it's yours. You know, with Nana's project, we started off very, very small. A lot of people questioned why and how. And even sometimes I sit back and I'm like, how did I accomplish all of this? Because we didn't have the resources, right? But we've been able to we have come so far in terms of what we have done. So focus on your mission, focus on your vision, and understand that when you put in that work and you stay in your lane, the other people that are in their other lanes, they're checking you out too, you know? So don't compare yourself. You're doing great.
I can answer also. One of the things is I don't necessarily consider some of those pitfalls mistakes. Like, I don't call them mistakes. For me, everything is about learning a lesson. I had earlier this year, I did a review of some contracts and things we were working on, and I saw that I had lost some money someplace. And my team was like, oh my gosh, we lost this money. And I was like, it's okay, guys, it's okay. We're actually going to use this as a lesson for the next opportunity that we have, right? So not getting caught up on the emotion of what that loss looked like. And in doing that, we were able to recoup really quickly, right? Because it wasn't just about the emotion, it was about figuring out where the mistake occurred and then using that as a building block. Some of those building blocks for me was around, I'm really personable, and I want to give people opportunities. And so I had hired some people to work with me who didn't produce the way that I needed them to produce. And I needed to figure out how to separate that relationship a little bit so that they understand to execute, right? Like thinking about that military language, like you still need to execute, right? And so being able to have some of those tough conversations, even while knowing people's personal stories that may be causing some conflict in terms of the production, and being able to release them from that role. The CEO of LinkedIn said, you have to have compassionate hiring practices. And sometimes the compassion means you have to give permission to someone to release them from a role so that they can go and do something else that they need to do, and to create more space in your business for somebody who wants to be there, right? And so we call it firing. That's what the world calls it, but I call it a compassionate release. And,
that's some Army stuff right there.
You like that? You like that? You know how I play. I'm playing. I got to use the words, right? One of the other building blocks for me was taking on too much that I could actually handle, right? You know, opportunities come when your business is the right business, the opportunities are going to come. But no, and at one point, I was taking on every single opportunity because I was thinking a lot about money and creating opportunities. Those are my two main things, right? Like how to bring in and how to create opportunities for folks. And I started that very quickly. I realized that I was spreading myself too thin, and subsequently it was going to affect my quality and my dedication to those products, which was also going to end up affecting my reputation or my ability to get another project with those folks, right? And so making sure that I say yes when I can do it, and say no when it's too much or it's going to require too much. That also goes with setting your prices, because people will always want to negotiate your prices, right? But you have to know your worth, and you have to be able to back up your worth, and your quality of experience and your ethic should be able to speak for that. So do not lower those prices unless you need to. When you're starting out, your prices may be low because you need to get business, right? You need to be able to create a past performance portfolio, but eventually you need to get to a place where you are comfortable with your dollar amount, because remember, you're going to be hiring other people to support things for you, right? So you're going to have to hire that accountant. So you have to know what your worth is, and to say yes to what you can do and no to those that you can't. One of my building blocks was around not taking enough time to enjoy my life, because I enjoy the work and I enjoy what I'm doing. There were times where I could just sit at my desk and I could just work all the way through, the evening, because I'm enjoying it and not enjoying other elements of my life. Like, God blessed me and gave me the opportunity to have this business and to have this life. And it's not fair to myself. And I also find it to be a little disrespectful spiritually when you don't fully enjoy the life that has been granted for you, the life that you have worked for, and the life that has been given to you. So making sure that I take more time to enjoy life. And then the last one is around that intuition. And I think you said it in my bio as well, that I do believe in intuition and how it serves into our practices, right? And so there were moments in my business where I stumbled because I thought that I needed to do it one particular way, but my intuition was calling me to do something different. And when that happened and I followed my intuition, that helped continue to build my niche. So making sure that we stay true to our intuition, because that's part of our grounding, that's part of our spirituality, that's part of why our purpose and why we're here. And we each have our own unique intuition, which should be reflected in the decisions that we make and the way that we create business.
Thank you so much. And I think we have time for just 2 more questions. I do have one question from a student here by the name of Jada. Oh, and another one just came in too. But Jada's question, how have you worked on your communication skills while in business?
You're always working on it, right?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I think everybody would agree with that. It's being on things like this, taking speaking opportunities. Like I always encourage people to go speak within your industry when it's an introduction to you, to the industry. Even if it's a small group of people, maybe a chapter, which leads into make sure that you're joining organizations, associations within your industry, and taking speaking opportunities there, speaking at high schools or wherever you can. It's that opportunity. The other thing is, and each person on here will tell you, and they don't teach this in college enough, and Adrian, maybe you can get them to change that, but networking.
Yes, absolutely.
Networking. Even if you don't like it, you don't have to go and drink at happy hour, but you definitely need to be there and talking to people. And if you're depending on your business, like in mine, you learn to play golf because decisions are made on golf courses in my business. And you find your way to get there, and whatever that thing is within your industry, you need to figure out what that is and use those opportunities and be able to speak to people with the quick elevator speeches about who you are and what your organization's about.
And Zenaida, I know you had a comment there too as well.
Yeah, I would definitely say, and just to make this a little bit for college, thinking about what I did when I was in college and beyond, definitely you want to listen, then respond. So I know we're not at physical events when I was, or, even on a call like this, listening and then responding to what you're hearing is really, really important in business. And then I would say you want to hook people, whatever it is that you're selling, whatever it is, if it's mentorship, whatever it is, you want to hook them first. And that is the listening aspect. Right? You hook people when you ask them about themselves. You hook them when you want to know about their nonprofit or their business, or how did you do this? People love to talk. So let them do that. And then you come in, because at some point they're going to feel like they've been talking about themselves for so long. They're going to say, so, and what about you? And that's when your pitch comes in, right? You have to, that's been my key. A lot of times, especially if you're sending introductions on LinkedIn. I've gotten introductions this long with everyone's pitch, and I'm like, you don't even know me yet. But I'm that type of person that I will engage, and I'll say things like good morning. You won't get that. But those are the little jewels that people are missing in networking, and just saying like, hi, how are you? Or getting a warm introduction, that always helps. So they also don't teach that as well. Like in this virtual space, we have to get used to asking for warm introductions. Use the search box in LinkedIn. Whatever company you're trying to get in, see if someone in your network is a second removed from them, and ask them for the warm introduction. Let them do the pitching for you as well. So you really have to look at your communications in business as a strategy, in my opinion.
Great.
Yes, definitely yes to everything that has been mentioned. And the only one thing I would add is definitely allowing your personality to also work for you, right? So I'm from Ghana. English is not my first language. So I had to take the time to make sure that I work on that skill, because English isn't my first language. I need to actually take the time to pick the words I want to use. But outside of that, because I was doing that, I started to become a robot, right? I lost my nana when I was talking to someone, because I wanted to not only get the point across, have my elevators pitch, but I also wanted to be taken seriously, especially, for my age and everything. But then also I wanted to be professional. I wanted to be XYZ, but then I lost my personality. And one thing I realized very quickly was my personality is actually what people want to see. people can definitely tell the difference between being genuine and you just trying to get your point across, right? So I took a step back. I understood my weaknesses, and I'm always working on it. But definitely not losing my personality, because that bubbly person is what has truly gotten me very, very far. Even, I know we were talking about it earlier, the whole elevator pitch. When I first started, I said, I'm going to have my first gala. I would like to have it at the Ghana Embassy and XYZ. That was my dream. Last year, that dream actually came to pass because I met the right person, and I was like, oh, and then we started talking, and then come to find out they knew the ambassador. Come to find out all these different things happened, and in that same moment, I met like a fundraising person, and I met so many different people that really just helped us just thrive last year. And it was all because I understood my weaknesses in communication, but I also didn't lose my personality when I was communicating. So I utilized all of that to be successful in terms of communicating with others.
What I love about that, Nana, is that two things that you said today. You are a current student. English is not your first language, and we have so many students that can relate to that. And so that's really an inspiration. And thank you for sharing that. Okay. So we have another question that came in, so I want to be able to answer this. It's from David. He says, I hope to open up an accounting firm once I graduate grad school in the next years. He's a senior status now and passing the CPA. Congratulations, David, on that. My question is, how were you able to find the perfect team? And how were you able to compete with other competitors in the same industry? Now, I want to give this to Dr. Linnell Plummer because you have a big team. And so I would like to know, how were you able to find that team?
Absolutely. One was around spending time and, again, understanding what I wanted and what I wanted for the people who were going to be working with me. Indeed, our team is, I guess, considered big. We're 30 people, and we are 95% Black and 95% women, so mostly Black women. And so I will be hanging out with the Black Women's Business Collective really soon too. But I was really intentional about what I wanted and who I wanted to do those things with. I also recognize where my strengths and weaknesses are. And because I am very personable and enjoy talking to people and listening to people, I also had to have people on my leadership team that were a little bit more protective than I am, right? So they will definitely, when we're going through the hiring process, I know exactly who's doing which number interview. I always do the last interview, but I know who's doing which interview because they're going to weed things out that I maybe have not seen, right? So my clinical director, she's a bulldog when it comes, like, you are not going to mess her over, right? So by the time the person even gets to me, I know that she's already kind of sifted through some of the things that they bring. Culture is really important to me because, like I mentioned, we are a predominantly Black woman business, and everybody doesn't have positive relationships amongst Black women, right? Like people have known to fight, have interfighting and things like that. And so we talk a lot about culture. I spend a lot of time thinking about culture, the culture of the business, and how to make sure that stays intact, especially as we're growing. We're about to open our 9th office. And so we're in different areas in different states, but I want the same culture in all those places. So very intentional, talking about it a lot of time. I'm also big on skill set. And so I ask questions around skill, and I ask questions when I don't know the answer, but I also ask questions when I do know the answer to see how people are going to explain it to me, right? And see what their position around it is. And that helps me to understand if they really know what they're talking about as well. And so those are some of the elements, but having a few people that helped me go through that HR process. Of course, my HR director is really important in that way too. And real quick before I move on, that question around communication in business, I think it also has to do with making sure that you're reading and staying well versed on the language of the business as well. So yes, of course, communication and presentations as such as these panels are extremely important, but communication is about giving and receiving information. So we have to be skilled around the language that we use and knowing the audience that we're using it with, knowing when to throw in certain business jargon and when to keep it more natural and casual, right? And so making sure that we're reading our books, like you've heard, a few of us have referred to books that we've read because they've been really helpful for us, but we also get to pull out quotes from those books. We get to pull out slogans and jargon that help people to understand that we're skilled in that communication. And then practice in the mirror. Make sure you practice. Make sure you see yourself. Make sure you're smiling. I really do smile this much though, but make sure you're also smiling because that looks warm and welcoming to people. When you're trying to negotiate different elements, they don't think that you're out to get them. They feel your warmth. They feel your genuineness. So make sure you invest in your communication by looking at yourself while you're talking at times too. I'm looking at myself now.
I would, there's a second part to that question. I didn't know if you read that, but.
Yeah, I can, and you're right. So why, how were you able to compete with other competitors in the same industry? Do you want to take that, Marion?
Yeah, I will, because that's my world, right? And I think I mentioned it earlier. It's working with people that are going after the same contracts you are going after. And it's developing, and it's sometimes you have to you create this small trust of people of business owners that you trust, right? And there's times you'll go after things together. I'm going after a current contract right now where the guy that I'm going against, and we are the top two vendors, because I was the director in the position that was there before. It was like 2 or 3 years ago. And he was my right-hand cyber guy in it. His company is going after the position. I'm going after the position of the contract. And we pretty much are like, well, whoever wins buys the wine, right? But we look at it as a competition, right? And we don't, it doesn't become something that ruins a relationship, but enhances your ability to be competitive in the industry. There's tons of opportunities for us to go after different things separately, and times when we go after things together. It's just, you have to build those relationships. There's times there's people you just won't trust to talk about things. And then there's times when you need to talk to them about it so that you guys can capitalize on the opportunity. It's a fine line to ride. Don't trust everybody. Use your NDAs, so you protect yourself. And even if it's friend, I don't care if it's my cousin or my brother, you give them an NDA, because people will steal your stuff. And you want to make sure that you're protecting your intellectual property. It's so imperative. And that's what I would say.
Great. Well, I think that just about does it. And thank you guys so much for your insight. I've learned a lot. I'm sure our audience has learned quite a bit as well. I have opened the chat to our audience, so if they have any last remarks or thank yous to give to our panelists, please do. And also, one last thing I want to add, feel free to send a LinkedIn request to our panelists. They want to network with you. They want to get to know you. Please reach out, network, as Marion said. And
I'm happy to mentor.
And be a mentor. That is another thing as well. So thank you so much to all of you and your insight. I truly appreciate it. And I see there are some things coming in saying thank you as well from our students.
Adrian, keep doing what you're doing. This is awesome.
Great.
We're happy to support you in the future again.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I will definitely be reaching out to each of you because I know our students are looking for mentors and looking for internships. I got to add that in there. So if you need help for internships, I know they are looking. Zenaida is actually taking on an intern this semester. So thank you, Zenaida. But for Marion, Dr. Plummer, and Nana, if you ever need interns, just let me know and I'll definitely match you up to some of our students.
Absolutely. We have a wonderful internship program, internship and externship, so people can absolutely come our way. Again, it's about building community and creating jobs. So
great, great. And as you can see, all industries here. We got business, we got health promotion, graphic design, marketing, nonprofit. So to all my students out there, please reach out if you are interested in working with one of our panelists. All right, thank you again. Enjoy your night and have a great week. And thank you again to the students for our Kickstart Career Monday event.